So here we are at the Red River, which is on the Rosewarne Peninsula, which is just down from the college, which is up over there. And we're on an area that is surrounded by gorse and heather. And our job today is going to be clearing the gorse to make way for the heather and the natural habitat to thrive. And we've found already an area here where there's already been a fire. And so what we're doing is we're using various tools which we have had a health and safety induction on, and they are tools such as the bow saw and the pitchfork and the loppers, which are over there in the grass. We're doing this so that we can encourage the local habitat back in, because the gorse is very acidic and can take over the area. And so we're doing this by making sure we cut the gorse very close to the ground, and then we're bringing it over and burning it very safely in this area here. Before we commenced burning, we did inform the local fire brigade and had an extensive risk assessment done as well. With this area here, once this is burnt down, it provides very little waste. So we're hoping that at the end of this, once the fire's gone, everything will be back to normal. An alternative to this would be to have cattle grazing in the area. However, due to a lot of human presence up and down on the bridle path, it's not always possible to have grazing areas such like this. So we will continue lopping the gorse off and burning it, and maybe one day we might come in and use some chemical to stop the gorse from growing again. Thank you. Okay, so today we're here at the Gwithian Green Nature Reserve, a small nature reserve in the centre of Gwithian village. We've come here today to do some coppicing of willow, and so what we've done is we've come to this small clearing here, and the reason why we're coppicing the willow is obviously to stop a form of succession, to keep the willow down, but also to make it available for the habitats that can come here and enjoy it throughout the seasons. So to do this, what we've done is we've used some loppers and bow saws, and we used some slashes to begin with, which was used to clear the area around the willow, and then we were using the loppers and the bow saws to start taking the willow down to a manageable size. And so once we had done this, we then produced what we call a faggot, which is a bundle of the willow which we can then take off and use for other things such as basket making, willow making and streaming, which is a type of fence which you can use along a riverbank. So the wood will be put to good use. Health and safety wise, the tools that we've used, we're always very aware of who's around us and how we leave the tools, taking care of the sharpness, that sort of thing, and making sure that we're aware of who's behind us whilst we're using the things like the slashers and the loppers. And so as you can see, I'd like to think that we've left the area in a lovely manageable state, ready for spring, so that the new vegetation can come up and encourage the wildlife in. We're here today at the Gwithian Green Nature Reserve, and today we have come down to do some clearing of this running stream. And what we're doing is we're removing a plant I've called watercress, which is taking over the bottom of the bed and preventing light coming through, which obviously will stop other species thriving through this lovely fresh water. The watercress grows quite prolifically due to eutrophication, which is a buildup of nutrients which has come from runoff from the fields and farm area around us, and this is why we're presented with this situation. What we're using here is something called chrome, and it's quite a pitchfork. Health and safety wise, we have to make sure there's nobody around us because we've got very long handles. Obviously we're wearing wellies so that we don't get caught. And we just introduce a planting action and pull the plant up as much as we can from the bottom of the riverbed, and also try and get the roots different habitats will move in, and hopefully, as well as here, there was a lovely beetle that survived here, because it particularly liked the silty bed. Well, maybe it will come back again, so we'll keep going. Right, we're here today at Rosewarne College, and what we are doing is we are replacing an escalona hedge with some native trees that were planted here last year. They're known as whips because they're still very young. We've got one here in the pot. So basically what we went to do is we had to remove the whips from where they were originally planted. We placed them into a pot to make sure that their roots didn't dry out, and transported them over to this area here. The first thing that we did was to make sure that we planted them in a straight line, which we did by using a piece of twine from end to end, and then planted the trees evenly spaced about 6 inches away from the line, so that it was going to form a straight barrier to hedge off this area. Another reason why we did this is because not only does it look nicer for the native trees to be here, but also they're very beneficial for wildlife compared to the non-native species of the escalona. So before we started, we would have to dig a hole, and this hole is called a pit hole. And to do this we needed to use a spade, which we've been trained to use properly. Reminder to use the right part of our foot to dig into the ground so that we don't overstretch and hurt ourselves. And also we've all got steel toe cap Wellington boots on. So we dug the hole down, and we roughly gauge how far the tree needs to go in. You can usually do this by eye, and you need to make sure that the roots are covered and there's no exposure on the top of the soil, so the roots are firmly into the ground. If you have problems digging the ground, we also have another tool that we've been shown to use called a mattock. And a mattock needs to be used. It's like a big pick shovel thing, and you can't use it with gloves because again that's dangerous. Again, we've been trained in that. So this hole's been dug, so I'll just show you quickly. So we grab the tree by the end so there's least root disturbance as possible, and then pop the tree into the hole as gently as possible, and then backfill with the soil that was removed from the hole. An important thing to remember at this time is to make sure that there's no dips around the base of the tree, as this could collect water which would then go down and rot the middle part of the tree. And also again ensuring that there's no roots exposed at all. That's something else. Right, so we can do that and make sure it's all flat around the area. Environmentally, these trees have come from a nursery, but we're pretty confident that they're going to flourish and look great here. And I think it will look, in a couple of years' time, it'll be as if they have always been here. Thank you. And one more thing to mention, as you can see, the trees have been supported by a stake, and around the tree and the stake is a guard. These are to protect the young trees from animals such as deer or rabbits, because they tend to like to eat the bottom of the trees, and that of course the tree would die because it would go right through the bark. Some of the materials you can get are biodegradable, so these could eventually drop off if they were of that nature. However, these ones aren't. So as the tree grows older, in the next 2 to 3 years, we would need to come back and remove the guards so that they don't grow into the tree or dig into the tree as the tree grows bigger.